A wild man runs naked with gazelles across the Mesopotamian steppe. A naked man walks peacefully among animals in a garden. One story is 4,000 years old from ancient Iraq. The other is from the Bible. And they're telling the same story about what we gained and lost when we became human. What if humanity's oldest stories aren't celebrating civilization, but mourning what it cost us? To understand this, we need to meet Enkidu from the Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest surviving epic poem composed in ancient Mesopotamia between 2000 and 1800 BCE. Mesopotamia means land between rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates in modern-day Iraq. This region birthed writing, cities, and literature itself. In the epic, Gilgamesh rules as a tyrannical king. The gods create Enkidu as his counterbalance, but Enkidu begins as something remarkable, an innocent creature of the wild. He lives naked among animals, and he races with gazelles. He drinks at watering holes beside them. Nature accepts him completely. Then everything changes. A woman from the city finds Enkidu. They spend 6 days and 7 nights together. When Enkidu rises, he's transformed. He tries to return to his animals, but the gazelles flee. His legs can no longer keep pace. His body has weakened, but his mind has expanded. The woman tells him, "Thou art wise, Enkidu. Thou art become like a god." He puts on clothing for the first time. He learns to eat bread and drink wine. He walks toward the city. The wild creature is gone forever. This transformation from innocent animal companion to wise civilized being sits at the heart of humanity's oldest epic, and it should sound familiar. Now, let's look at a story you probably know better, Genesis chapters 2 and 3. Adam is formed from the dust of the ground. The Hebrew word Adam literally means earth creature. He lives in Eden, a garden where nature provides everything freely. He walks naked among animals, naming them no toil, no shame, no knowledge of civilization. Then he eats from the tree of knowledge. His eyes open. He becomes like gods, knowing good and evil. He covers himself. He's expelled. The ground is cursed. Paradise is lost. Here's where it gets remarkable. These aren't vague similarities between distant cultures. When scholars compare these texts systematically, they find 6 specific structural parallels: the same story architecture, the same transformation, the same loss. This isn't coincidence, it's pattern. And understanding this pattern reveals something profound about how ancient peoples understood the price of becoming civilized. Let's walk through all 6 parallels. First, both figures are created from earth. Enkidu is fashioned from clay by the gods. Adam is formed from the dust of the ground. Second, both begin as innocent primitives living in harmony with animals. Third, nature yields its bounty freely to both, no labor required. Fourth, neither knows clothing, cities, or toil. Civilization doesn't exist for them. Fifth, both undergo a transformation that makes them like gods. Enkidu through his encounter, Adam through eating the fruit. Wisdom is gained. Sixth, both lose their harmony with nature permanently. The gazelles flee Enkidu. Adam is expelled from Eden, the ground cursed beneath his feet. But what were these stories actually saying about civilization? Here's the key insight. Neither story is simply celebrating progress. Both hold profound ambivalence, and that's holding 2 conflicting feelings simultaneously. The Gilgamesh epic shows longing for what scholars call the innocent, simple, uncomplicated existence that Enkidu lost. Genesis shows paradise surrendered, ground cursed, bread earned by the sweat of the brow. Both cultures understood something we often forget. Wisdom and knowledge come at a very high price. Something precious and irretrievable is lost. So what's the historical relationship between these texts? The Mesopotamian stories predate biblical composition by centuries. Sumerian Gilgamesh poems existed around 2100 BCE. The standard Babylonian epic emerged around 1200 BCE. Genesis reached its final form during or after the Babylonian exile around 500 BCE. Biblical writers lived in a world saturated with these Mesopotamian narratives. They knew these stories, but this isn't plagiarism. It's creative theological adaptation. Biblical authors took familiar cultural motifs and reshaped them to express their own distinct vision of God, humanity, and creation. A common misconception: the Bible copied from Gilgamesh, so it's not original. The relationship is more nuanced. Ancient Near Eastern cultures shared a vocabulary of stories, images, and themes. Biblical writers engaged creatively with this shared heritage, adapting, transforming, and reinterpreting familiar patterns to express theological ideas that were genuinely new. Ancient readers would have recognized these echoes. The parallels weren't hidden or accidental. They were part of how meaning was made. Recognizing literary context enriches understanding. It doesn't diminish it. It shows us how ancient authors actually worked. Another misconception: ancient people were naive about civilization's benefits. These texts prove otherwise. The ambivalence embedded in both stories shows sophisticated awareness of trade-offs. Ancient Mesopotamians and Israelites weren't simply pro-civilization or anti-civilization. They held both in tension, and they celebrated wisdom, culture, cities, and the bonds of friendship that Enkidu finds with Gilgamesh. They also mourned the loss of innocence, simplicity, and harmony with the natural world. This both and thinking, recognizing that progress brings genuine gains and genuine losses, represents mature cultural reflection, not primitive confusion. So why does any of this matter 4,000 years later? These are ancient curiosities. They're humanity's earliest attempts to answer a question we still ask. Was it worth it? Every generation faces this question in new forms. Technology, urbanization, artificial intelligence. What do we lose as we gain? The smartphone connects us globally while fragmenting our attention. Climate change reveals the cost of industrial progress. These ancient stories suggest the loss of innocence isn't a bug of civilization, it's the defining feature. Understanding that our ancestors grappled with this same tension connects us to the deepest currents of human reflection. Next time you read Genesis chapters 2 and 3, notice what's being mourned, not just what's being explained. These parallel stories reveal that ancient peoples were more ambivalent about progress than we often assume. They built cities and wrote epics while remembering what was lost. The oldest human stories aren't triumphant, they're bittersweet. And that honesty still speaks to us.